Okay, so I think we can just start. Habol na lang yung iba. So, okay, first we discuss. Let me just share my screen first. Entire screen. Entire window. Window should. Okay. Okay, so you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so before we start with JS browser object model, let's try to look at what is a URL first. So, are you familiar with a URL? What does URL means? Maybe we are always mentioning of a URL, but are we really familiar or are we that detailed of what a URL is? So, yeah. So, what is a URL? It's Uniform Resource Locators. Okay, it is an address that you use for finding resources on the World Wide Web. Okay, so with hypertext or HTTP, URL is one of the key concepts of the web. It is the mechanism used by browsers to retrieve any published resource on the web. Okay, so yan, a URL is nothing more than an address of a given unique resource in the web. In theory, each valid URL points to a unique resource. Such resources can be an HTML page, a CSS document, an image, a JavaScript file, text files, JSON files, XML files, and so on. So, ayan, deeper dive, anatomy of URL. So in this example, what are the parts of a URL? So URL is composed of different parts, some mandatory and others optional. Let's see the most important parts of the following URL. So this one. The first part is HTTP, which is what we call the protocol. Okay, take note of that. It's a protocol. So it indicates which protocol the browser must use. A protocol is a set of methods for exchanging or transferring data around a computer network. Usually for websites, it is HTTP, or for its secured version, it's HTTPS. The web requires one of these two, but browsers also know how to handle other protocols such as Mail2, wherein it opens a mail client, and FTP for handling file transfers. Okay, so don't be surprised if you see such protocols. So yan, HTTP for web documents. Even images, we also use HTTP. For mailing, the mail2 opens a mail client, FTP opens your file transfer client if there is. We also, in web development, we also sometimes see WS, which is the protocol for WebSocket. That's for chatting, real-time chat. So, ayan. That's your protocol. And then the next, www.example.com, that is your domain. So It's a domain name. It indicates which web server is being requested. Alternatively, it is possible to directly use an IP address, but because it is less convenient, it is not often used on the web. So this is usually it's like a name given to a computer or a web server. Okay. So whenever you access the domain name, you are accessing uh, the index file of that web server. Okay. So you can also access using IP address, pero mas mahirap, less convenient. Mas mahirap siyang i-memorize compared to memorizing facebook.com or google.com. Okay? Imagine when you are going to memorize 172, that 125, that 10, that 20. So, di ba ang hirap? Or you may be you may need to memorize the IP version 6 address, which is the hexadecimal number. So, yeah. So the domain name, ayan, www, yung buong yun, it's your domain name. Sometimes there is another dot here, or there are other parts. The www can be another another subdomain. Like for example, mail.example.com or maps.example.com. So that is called the subdomain. Okay. Then the next part is the port. Usually in HTTP, it's port 80. Or for HTTPS, it's port 443. But usually, these are omitted in our URL here. It usually defaults to port 80. Unless you are going to specifically use another port, then it always defaults to port 80. Okay? Uh, s- Sometimes you may have encountered, I'm not sure if you have encountered, like MySQL is running on port 3306. Sometimes other mobile browsers use port 8080, and then Node.js uses port 3000 by default. Okay, and then the next here, path to my HTML. This is the path file. Usually, path is a folder inside your web server. Two is another folder inside path, and then the my file.html is the file name. Okay, you may have noticed that in your project if you are accessing your files. So that is the path file. Although nowadays it is mostly an abstraction handled by web servers without any physical reality. Okay? So sometimes, or we can also create a path like this without a physical folder or a physical file like this. Okay? So we can still call this a path to the file, but in reality nowadays, we can fake this one. Next are the parameters. So question mark, key 1 equals value, and value 1, and key 2 equals value 2. These are the parameters. These are the parameters, or just like the function parameters, if you are familiar with the function parameters or arguments. So these are the parameters passed to the web server. So if you want to pass a value to a function, you use its arguments or parameters. In web development or in websites, you pass a parameter using this format. Okay? Whenever you append question mark to the URL and then you have this equals value format, you are passing a parameter. And then you may have noticed this hash sign followed by a text. So it's called an anchor somewhere in the document. Okay, so it's somewhere within this document, for example. So yeah, those are the parts of the URL. So how to use URL? Okay, absolute URLs versus relative URLs. So absolute URL is we have the full URL. Relative URLs may be like this part only, en-us slash docs slash learn, meaning you are just accessing a path inside this domain name. Okay? So, yun ang ibig sabihin ng mga relative URLs. It's a path or a URL relative to the current domain. Okay? And then we can also use an implicit protocol. So implicit protocol, you are not going to put in the protocol. Sometimes this is very important, very handy if you are going to put a URL or use a URL that is outside your domain, but you are not sure whether to use HTTP protocol or HTTPS. So in that case, you may want to use an implicit protocol URL, which is double forward slash followed by the host name followed by the path. Okay? And then implicit domain name. So yung sinabi ko kanina, without the domain. So in that case, it's inside this domain. Okay? Any question? So examples of relative URLs. Okay, this one's going back to the directory tree. This is if you are uh, going to put some CSS files that is outside of that directory that you are currently in. So you use the double dot. And so any questions regarding URLs?
None so far, sir.
How about the others?
Same, sir.
None, sir.
None, sir.
Okay, so ayan, question lang kayo, pwedeng sa chat, pwedeng turn on yung mic. Okay, so going back to the browser object model. So the browser object model allows JavaScript to talk to the browser. So meaning we can access the browser object by using JavaScript. Okay. First one is the window object, wherein of course it contains all the information about the current window, the current document. Okay. So yan, we can get the current window or the window inner height and inner width. So by using the window object, we can also open a new window. We can close the current window. We can move to, or we can resize to. Move to meaning, for example, I'm not sure if you will be seeing this, but in case the browser window is not maximized, you can move it around using JavaScript. Okay, you can move it to the bottom of your screen, to the right hand corner or the left corner and so on. Okay, left bottom corner. Ayan, that's the window object. And then screen is also inside the window object. So it allows you to get the width, the height, the available width, available height, the color depth, and the pixel depth of the current screen. So and then we have location. So location allows you to get information about the URL of the current page. Okay. So href returns the URL of the current page. Host name returns the domain name, path name, protocol, and then assign is it loads a new document. Okay. Or you can use window.location to go to another document or another URL, another location. So, ayan. Just in case you want to, for example, this is a button, you did something, alert hello world, and then after that, you want to redirect to, let's say, google.com. So window.location equals google.com. Or let's put it in full, https colon. So let's run it. Try hello world, which is your alert hello world. After clicking OK, so ayan, it tries to go to google.com although Google refuses to connect. I think this is because this is just an iframe, so may restriction din si Google. Okay, so going back, so that's your location, and then the history, which is also inside the window. So it allows you to get the current history information of the browser, wherein you can call history.back or call history.forward. It's just like the user clicking on the back or forward button of their browser. Okay, so instead of the user clicking on back in here, you can create a breadcrumbs wherein clicking on wherein there's a back button, and if they click, it will go history that it will call history.back. Okay, so yan. You can create a back button in your web page. And then navigator, of course, this is contains the information of the current navigator or the current browser. Okay, whether you're using a mobile browser, whether you're using Chrome, Firefox, or Safari. Okay, and then pop-up alerts. So the pop-up boxes in JavaScript, these are very useful sometimes if you are lazy to create your own pop-ups. Okay, so an alert box is just like what we saw earlier. This is an alert box. So an alert box is often used if you want to make sure information comes through to the user. When an alert box pops up, the user will have to click OK to proceed. Okay. And then the confirm box, a confirm box is often used if you want to the user to verify or accept something. When a confirm box pop-ups, the user will have to click either OK or cancel to proceed. If the user clicks OK, the box returns true, and if the user clicks cancel, the box returns false. And then a prompt box, it is often used if you want the user to input a value before entering a page. Okay, so let's just try it for a while. Run. So an alert is just something like this. If you want to inform the user that something has been finished, okay, or something, or if you want the user to really read something before they can proceed, so you can use an alert box because they cannot do anything on the web page without having to click on OK. So usually they will read what is in here before they click OK. Okay. A confirm box is usually, so it's just created using the confirm function. Usually we use it to if we want the user to verify something before proceeding. Like for example, are you sure you want to delete this record? Question. So it will show, are you sure you want to delete this record? Okay, now let's change it a bit. So we'll call it delete, and then we will use if statement, if confirm. So yeah, since it just returns true or false, we can use it in an if statement. So if are you sure you want to delete this record, maybe we can say that, okay, let's try to remove h2, document that query selector h2 that i-hide lang natin. Display style that display equals, okay, so run. So are you sure you want to delete this record? Cancel will not delete, okay, will not proceed. But if we click on OK, so ayan, the record or the user have confirmed of the action. So ayan, we proceeded with the action. Okay? For a confirm box naman, to confirm, no. I mean for the third one, the prompt box. Okay? So prompt, maybe what is your name? You can have a default one. Okay, h2 dot inner html equals thing. So yeah, if you want to get an input from the user, you can use prompt. Oh, why do I have to click on delete? So what is your name? Let's say we want to have it in English. Sujan. Okay, so ayan. Maybe you say hello plus Jan. Okay, so what's your name? Okay, those are the pop-up boxes of JavaScript. Take note that these are built-in JavaScript functions. The alert, so um, we have alert, we have confirm, and we have prompt. And usually, ang nagagamit namin is confirm because of the delete buttons. You always have or need to get a confirmation from the user for deleting an object or deleting something. because usually if we delete from database, if we do hard delete, then they will not, they cannot get that record back. There's no undo if you delete in the database. So those are the pop-up boxes. Any question so far? Hello?
None,
None.
sir.
Okay. How about the others? 15.
Sir, mabaling image, di ba? Di data pop-up alerts.
No.
Ah, okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
I think it's just text. Usually, if you want to create a fancy pop-up, you will need to create your own. Like create an HTML elements and then style it with CSS. And you can style it any how you want it to look like. Okay. So you want an image, you want a backdraft, you want something for the opacity and so on. Okay. So it's just like you remember your bootstrap. Where's model? Content and then it's components. So modal, ayan, usually this is your bootstrap model. Meron ba tayo may image dito? Okay, wala. Pero this bootstrap model, okay, it can be created as easy as this line of codes. Ito. This is the launcher. So data toggle, model, data target, and then this is your modal HTML. So anything you can put inside the body. You can put division, you can put headers, you can put images, videos, and so on. Okay, and then you just click and you have the model. Okay,
Thank you, sir.
and so any other question? Ulit tayo nag-start. Parang hindi kaya ng 1 hour. If there are no questions on alert, we go to timings. So JavaScript can be executed in time intervals. This is called timing events. So we have two timing events in JavaScript. Built-in timing events, we have the set timeout, which executes a function after waiting a specified number of milliseconds, or set interval, which is similar to timeout, but it repeats the execution of function continuously. Okay, until continuously until you want to clear using the clear timeout method. Set interval. So ayan, clear interval. Have you guys tried this one?
No, sir.
Not yet. Okay, so basically the set timeout, it will only execute the given set of codes. Set function after the specified time in milliseconds. Okay, let's say 3,000 is enough. So milliseconds, familiar naman kayo sa milliseconds, no? It's 1,000 of a second. So 1,000 milliseconds is equivalent to 1 second. Okay, so run, delete, so it doesn't do anything yet. And then we wait for what? Set
Naka-server na
time.
yung carousels eh.
Sorry,
Yung carousels eh.
nasa
I-slide
carousel. Okay. So yan, set time out, and then after 3 seconds, so there we have the prompt. So this is set timeout. For example, we want 5 seconds to run, delete. So we wait for 5 seconds and then it will show or it will execute what is inside your set timeout. Okay. Set intervals is slightly different. Interval. It will repeat what is in your code for this is like infinitely. Let's say every second we want to set inner HTML plus e as equals hello. Okay. So run delete pa rin, no? So in every 1 second it is executing the given function or the given set of codes. So that's your set interval. You want to click here and then clear a set interval, you assign it to a variable like interval, for example, or let's say my interval. And then if the user does something, we can do clear timeout, clear interval. Clear timeout is for timeout, clear interval is for interval. And then the name of the interval. Okay. Run. So it's now running hello, 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 hello until we click on delete, then it stops. Okay, click on the button. Okay, so question on the clear timeout. I mean the timeout events, the timing functions of JavaScript.
answer.
Sir, what if kasta? Like automatic na ag-stop without triggering the button or something.
Without triggering the button, so maybe you can also like you only want to have 5. So var I is equal to 0 if I is less than 5. Do this or else you do the clear interval. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, did not stop. Why? Uh, okay, it's not incrementing. Okay, so ganun lang. You can since you can use since interval is declared outside, it becomes a global scope variable, so you can also use it inside the function. So any other question? Question on timings or even question on pop-up boxes and BOM kung ngayon nyo lang naisip. Okay, so while waiting for your questions, so yan, stop execution. Okay, then we have cookies. So you may have encountered this, or you may have seen this very often in web pages. Like when you visit one web page or website, this website uses cookies. Do you agree? Something like that. Napapansin nyo ba? Or you just ignore?
Mapanpansin sir, like no dati pa pa ng mga
Yep. So yan, because cookies are data stored in small text files in your computer. So, ang hirap na kasi ngayon ng mag-store ng data or to gather data from people. If you gather data, you have to secure it. Okay? Uh, remember what happened to Facebook when they were hacked? Remember what happened to other websites when they were hacked? So if they lose data, if there's a breach of data, they have to pay an amount. Or pwedeng maging dahilan pa yun ng pag-close ng kanilang service. So yun. So kaya nakikita niyo yung mga uh, cookies reminders on websites. It's because they are storing information about you. So do you consent or do you not consent the storing of cookies? So that's why you have those. So yan, cookies are data stored on your computer regarding your information for that website. So they may need to store your name, your username, your email, or they may need to store your progress or the current or the last page that you visited in your website. Or they may need to store what are the links that you click or what are the images that you viewed. So yun yung gamit ng cookies. It stores information about you. If you happen to remember the login pages wherein there is a remember me checkbox or keep login or something like those. So those also uses cookies. They store your username, and then once the username is detected when you visit that website again, you will automatically be logged in. Okay? So to store a cookie in JavaScript, you just use document.cookie is equal to key and then the value. Okay? So you want username, you want to store the username equals John Doe. Okay? And then you can also set an expiration of the cookie. So username is equal to John Doe expires on Thursday, 18th of December 2013, 12 p.m. UTC. Okay? Usually we use 24-hour format. And then you can also have path where this cookie is available. So slash meaning the whole website. To read a cookie is you also get using document that cookie. But you will have to parse the cookie because it's just a string. You will have to parse the different values that you stored. Okay, any question? To delete a cookie in JavaScript, so again, it's very simple. You don't have to specify a cookie value when you delete a cookie. Just set the expire parameter to a pass date. Usually to a pass hour is sufficient. Like for example, to now is 10:08 a.m. Setting it to 9 a.m. will already expire the cookie. Okay? Any question regarding cookies? Hello? So, wala pa? Parang hindi tayo abot sa jQuery. Anyway, what is JSON? So, JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. It is a lightweight format for storing and transporting data. It is often used when the data is sent from a server to a web page, and JSON is self-describing and easy to understand. So, there are several ways to transport a data in web technologies in World Wide Web. So one is, of course, very common using your HTML. But usually HTML is for hypertext. You can also transport data using text files, but usually text files are harder to read. I mean, harder to read from a computer perspective. Okay? So imagine a text file na ganito lang yung content. Okay? So you have to read line by line in order to get the data that you want. Another way to transport data is by using, ito ko na lang ilagay ha, JSON, which is what we will try to understand. In XML, this is your extensible markup language. Okay? This is extensible markup language. It's a markup language for carrying data. Okay? XML is for presenting data or presenting text. XML is for structuring data. Example is in XML you can invent your own tags. Like for example, you want to have name, okay, my name, address, my address. Okay, so ganito si XML. XML, ayan, you can invent your own tags. You can use any tag you want. You can use any attribute you want. But usually, it's an older format than JSON. Okay, although it's still very common, still used in a lot of development platforms, in a lot of configuration files and so on. But in web development, in World Wide Web, it's slowly being replaced by JSON or the JavaScript object notation. I think it's here. Okay. So JavaScript object notation because it's more compact, it's lightweight, it's easier to understand, and it's also easy to parse using JavaScript or PHP. Okay. Excuse me. So this is an example of a JSON. So wherein this is an object, we have an employees array which contains objects for each employee. So the first name and last name of each employee. So the syntax rules, JSON data is in name value pairs. This is the name, this is the value. So separated by a colon. This is the name, this is the value. Okay? Usually values are surrounded by quotation, double quotes, or an object, or an array. Okay? Data is separated by commas. Curly braces hold objects, and square brackets hold arrays. So the JSON format is syntactically identical to the code of creating JavaScript objects. Because of this similarity, a JavaScript program can easily convert JSON data into native JavaScript objects. Okay? Any question? So in JavaScript, to convert an object here into a JSON, usually JSON is a text format. Okay? It's a text file. So in order to convert a JavaScript object into JSON, you need to call JSON.stringify. Okay? And then the object name. And then to convert or to parse a JSON, a text, to be converted as an object, you need to call JSON.parse. Okay? So it's easy to memorize JSON.stringify and JSON.parse. Stringify is to convert into string, parse is to parse the string into an object. Ayan, meron tayong comparison of JSON and XML. So JSON, this is the format. This is the text. In XML, this is the format. This is the text. Okay? So just imagine how compact JSON is. So this will only be like maybe 50 characters, and this can reach up to 100 characters. So imagine if you are going to send or receive a large amount of data, so mas compact talaga si JSON. Okay? Questions? Hello?
Nope, sir.
None, sir.
Okay, good. Later on, we might be using JSON also, especially when we are going to transport data from our front end or our HTML or JavaScript to our back end, which will be PHP. So yeah, if there are no questions on JSON, so we go and go on ahead and discuss about jQuery. So ayan, what is jQuery? It is a JavaScript library. It greatly simplifies JavaScript programming. So that's why I want to discuss it with you in jQuery because it simplifies JavaScript programming. jQuery is easy to learn. So what you should already know, you have to know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So what is jQuery? jQuery is a lightweight, write less, do more JavaScript library. So I highlighted this, write less, do more JavaScript library. The purpose of jQuery is to make much easier to use JavaScript on your website. So jQuery takes a lot of common tasks that require many lines of JavaScript code to accomplish and wraps them into methods that you can call with a single line of code to do. So jQuery require also simplifies a lot of complicated things from JavaScript like Ajax calls and DOM manipulation. So the jQuery library contains the following features: HTML or DOM manipulation, CSS manipulation, um, HTML event methods, effects and animations, Ajax, and utilities. So if you are wondering what is Ajax, it is asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Mm, here. And asynchronous JavaScript and XML, I think we will also discuss this later. So it's a way of sending and receiving data from and to a web server in the background. Okay. Anyway, so we'll go with jQuery first. So why jQuery? There are lots of JavaScript libraries out there, but jQuery is probably the most popular and also the most extendable. Many of the biggest companies of the web use jQuery, such as Google, Microsoft, IBM, Netflix, and even Bootstrap. The Bootstrap framework, if you remember how to use Bootstrap, it also uses jQuery. So the first script that you need to include when you use Bootstrap is to include the jQuery library. Okay. So when you want to use jQuery, you can download from jQuery.com and include it in your website. You store it in your own folder, JS folder, or you can use the jQuery CDN. Could be from Google APIs, Mac CDN, and so on. So one of the big advantage of using hosted jQuery from Google is many users already have downloaded jQuery from Google when visiting another site. So as a result, it will be loaded from cache when they visit your site. So which leads to faster loading time. Most CDN will make sure that once a user requests a file from it, it will be served from the server closest to them, which also leads to faster loading time. Okay, so the jQuery syntax, we have the dollar sign, the selector inside open and close parentheses, dot action. Okay, dollar sign is to define or access jQuery object itself, and then selector, the query, define the HTML elements, and then action to be performed
on the elements. Examples: this that hide, p that hides all p elements. That test that hides all tests. Class with tests. I mean elements with class tests, and this is for ID selectors. So take note of this. This is the selector. It's similar to your CSS selectors. So almost every CSS selectors that you can use can also be used with jQuery. The document that ready is to make sure that everything that you execute here will only execute once the document is ready or once the document is fully loaded. Okay? So this is to make sure that the element exists first before you are accessing through jQuery. Okay? So kasi sometimes we are not sure. We may be executing a JavaScript function already, but the element hasn't loaded yet. In that case, it will create an error. And if something went wrong in JavaScript, the whole JavaScript code will not be executed, will not continue. Okay. So the jQuery team also created an event shorter method for the document ready using this function. Okay. But usually I am used to using document ready. Any questions so far? So
None, sir.
events. So what are events? All the different visitors actions that a web page can respond to are called events. An event represents the precise moment when something happens. Example, moving a mouse over an element, selecting a ready button, clicking on an element. So the term fires or fired is often used with events. The key press event is fired the moment you press a key. So these are example of the DOM events. So click, double click, mouse enter, key press, key down, form submit, change, focus, blur, load, resize, scroll, and unload. Okay, let's do this for example. So imagine this syntax, hide. On click of the hide button, we will hide all the paragraphs. So hide, show. Okay. Imagine these lines of code and compare it to this one, for example. Okay. So worst is if we are going to use if you want to use all H2. You will be using document that query selector all and then you will have to loop. Okay. Versus in jQuery, which is only like this. So which one is shorter? Which one is easier to use? So it should be jQuery, right? Am I right to say?
Yes, sir.
jQuery is easier to use. The input, let's say, um, type equals text. ID is equal to input. Okay, so if you want to add an event listener for the change method of the the input box, so you can just do something like this. Um, Input. You can use that on change function. You can pass an anonymous function or you can pass a function name. So we will select the input show that HTML. This refers to the object that triggered the event. That val gets the value of an input field. Okay? So, so in that case, you can always open your console and check what has been wrong. So you have your console. Nandun na pala. It's because it's on change. Okay? So hello there. On change only triggers if we get out of the element or get out of the input box. Okay? So yan. That's for your key up event. So any question regarding jQuery? So anyway, you can just browse on this. You can just read on it para mas mapadali yung pag-code nyo ng JavaScript. And then you might also be using this in your final project. Okay? So since it makes our JavaScript programming a lot easier and faster, and it lets us write less code than using vanilla JavaScript. So, and you may want to consider using jQuery. Okay. By the way, the term vanilla JavaScript refers to the pure version of JavaScript without any framework or library. So, any question?
None kanyak, sir.
Okay, so